No.
ஹலோ
No sound. No sound.
சார் சொல்லுங்க சார். ரொம்ப நாளாச்சு உங்க வாய்ஸ் எல்லாம் கேட்டு. ஆமா சார்.
Sound மியூட் பண்ணிருக்காங்கல்ல, சவுண்டே வரல.
ஆமா ஆமா செவர்ட்ட சொன்னேன்.
நல்லா இருக்கீங்களா?
நல்லா இருக்கேன் சார்.
ஓகே.
லாஸ்ட் இதுல பிராக்டிக்கலா போட்டோம் இல்லையா? எங்க
ஆமா ஆமா
காணுமேன்னு கேட்டேன். வெளியிலே விடுறதில்ல அப்படின்னாங்க. நல்லதுதான்.
உண்மைதான்.
கண்டிப்பா.
ஓகே.
Ganesan sir?
Yes, sir.
Can you start the?
Yes, sir.
They will
Yes.
join later. Yeah?
Join பண்ணிட்டாங்களா சார்? Okay.
Nearly 24, 25 it's came.
Okay, sir. Start பண்ணிடுவோம்.
26.
Okay, sir.
சார் ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணிடலாமா சார்?
ஹலோ
ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணிடலாமா சார்?
பண்ணுங்கம்மா.
ஓகே, தேங்க்யூ சார்.
Good evening to one and all.
Yes.
I am profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce the chief guest of this day and speaker of this session. He is none other than Dr. C.A. Abhishek Murali, the youngest elected secretary of the Institute of SIRC of ICAI. He is a partner of Victor Grace and Co. During his tenure as a secretary, the SIRC won the Best Region Award for the first time in 10 years, which showcases his contribution to the field. He is an expert in direct taxation, international taxation, litigation management, appeals, mergers and acquisition is also his favorite practice area. He stood as a speaker in more than 1,500 seminars conducted by various institutes and trade and commercial bodies. He was the long list of his qualification behind his name proves to be a testimony to his academic excellence. He has recently qualified in the Independent Directors Data Bank Online Proficiency Test conducted by Institute of Corporate Affairs. He was facilitated with Gold Star Award by Padma Shri Dr. Mayilsamy Annadurai and Abraham Lincoln Excellence Award for International Peace Council USA. He is currently the chairman of ER Committee, the Direct Taxes and International Taxes Committee for members in industry and business of SIRC of ICAI. CA Abhishek Murali was member of many committees like implementation and survey of faceless assessment, faceless appeal proceedings constituted by Ministry of Finance, Government of India. He is a non-academic member of Board of Studies in Madras University. He was nominated as first secretary of Commerce and Trade for the Republic of Zambia. He has authored books like Overview of Companies Act, Income Tax Ready Reckoner, and Taxation of Capital Gains, the notable books used by professionals and government officials. His contribution to our profession and his credentials are running into several pages. Due to paucity of time, I have cut short this.
வருமா வராதுன்னு நம்ம சொல்ல முடியாது. 30 lakhsக்கு மேல உள்ள கேசஸ் தான் ரிப்போர்ட் ஆகுது.
Yes sir, yes sir. One more thing I would like to point out.
30 lakhs மேல உள்ள ரிப்போர்ட் ஆகுது. அதனால இதுல வந்து சொல்ல முடியாது. ஏதாவது பேங்க் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்ஸ்ல பெர்யூஸ் பண்றதுல உங்களுக்கு ஹெவி டிரான்சாக்ஷன் இருக்கு அப்படிங்கறத நோட்டீஸ் வந்தா அது 2 வருஷம் கழிச்சு வரும். அது சொல்ல முடியாது.
Sir, at this juncture, I extend a warm thanks to Mr. C.A. Suri sir for his greeting and appreciation for holding this first virtual seminar during my chairmanship. It was my first ceremony. I invited C. Abhishek sir. He has accepted the same. And also all ex-chairmen for their inputs and valuable suggestion. Also thank to our branch secretary, C.R. Ganesh, for coordinating this wonderful seminar. And we also hope and pray for all be safe at this COVID pandemic time, sir. With this, I request to see Abhishek sir to take the charge.
Thank you so much, Chairman of the Kumbakonam branch, CA Aruna Sundar sir, very dynamic and always smiling personality. The management committee members, Secretary, CA R Ganesh, Treasurer, KS Kumaravelu sir. Of course, CS Venkatesan sir for such a lovely introduction. Thank you so much for such kind words.
It
that you have
was more
showered
than
upon
2
me.
pages. I considered it 2 pages.
Thank you so much. It's really, you made it look and sound much better than it is, sir. So thank you so much for that. And of course, all the dear members of Kumbakonam branch and adjoining regions who joined today's program. Kumbakonam is, of course, our family hometown, very close to my heart. And I used to enjoy visiting there, interacting with the members. Of course, we are very active WhatsApp group and we continue to interact there. But still, that physical interaction has been missing for more than a year now. What to do? It seems like that is going to continue for the rest of the year also. But safety first. So I am very, very happy that the Kumbakonam branch is continuing to do a great job by doing online programs. And I feel privileged to be invited here as the first program under current chairman's leadership. So today's topic, as very rightly said and rightly selected by the chairman, sir, it's a very, very important topic. Now, faceless assessment is no longer new. I have spoken already in Kumbakonam branch twice about this topic. Once, almost 3 years back, I spoke about it. Then during the lockdown, very early stages before it was announced, we spoke about it. And now today's the third session on it. So no longer is it new. It is now established. It is very much there. And there are so many proceedings which are going on, so many good proceedings, so many bad proceedings. But what is very, very important to note, lot of key developments have happened. And lot of key developments are happening also now. Ladies and gentlemen, as Venkatesan sir kindly pointed out, as part of the committee which was constituted by the Finance Ministry for the suggestions and review for this faceless assessment scheme, we have given a lot of feedback, a lot of advice where we're saying this will not work, that will not work, too much information they are asking, we cannot upload, restriction of data. But what we have seen is that the government, whenever we have come out and said, sir, this is not proper, this is not fine, this attachment is not working, only 9 MB were to attach. When we say all this, we were expecting them to get scared and say, we'll come back to physical. Oh, is it? Tell me some more. I will fix it. And they are fixing it also. So one thing is very clear now. Gone are the days where we have to fight to saying we want physical also. Faceless is here to stay. But as some of you may have been reading in the newspapers in the last 2 days, in the meeting that was concluded 2 weeks back, we had given a suggestion, especially for large assessees, that there should be an option of physical also because of certain practical challenges. In today's seminar, I'll be briefly touching upon not only the faceless assessment scheme itself, but also latest practical issues, including, as I'm sure all of you are receiving for your clients now, opening of notices, which is coming every day. One fresh notice is being issued for clients under section 148. So I'm going to be covering that also in today's program. So let me just quickly share my screen now and we'll proceed with the presentation. Just a second. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir. Proceed, sir.
Okay. And I request Chairman, Management Committee members, organizers, if there's any issue in my data or my bandwidth, please tell me. I have a backup connection available. I will connect to that. So in case it is not clear, my voice is breaking, something like that, please tell me, because I am not aware. If you tell me, I'll accordingly change my network connection to suit that.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. So with this, we will get started. Of course, faceless assessment, practical issues, and latest developments. Now, of course, I'm going to quickly start upon by touching where we were before to going to where we are today. Manual assessment, we are all familiar with. Physical notice used to come either to you or it will go to the client. Client will come and give you the notice. You will go as per the hearing, whatever decided date, appear, give written submissions, make your arguments. Then based on that, either a favorable order or an adverse order will be passed. Very, very clear, no problem. Second, this was the confusion. Even when I visited Kumbakonam, I remember discussing with the members during the presentation, many of them said, I've already been doing e-assessment and 2 years back. I said, there is no faceless assessment. What are you talking about? This is why the confusion was there. Ladies and gentlemen, before 13th of August 2020, we had something known as email assessment. Please note the word that I'm using, email assessment, where you go to the e-proceedings tab, just like how it is today, list of cases used to come. But there used to be one more button. Do you want to do this assessment physically? Yes or no? So if you select yes, you can do it physically. If you select no, it will be faceless. But whether you select yes or no, it is the same jurisdictional assessing officer. Your assessee in Kumbakonam will continue to be assessed by someone in Kumbakonam only. Your assessee in Chennai will be assessed by someone in Chennai only, whether it is manual or email assessment, no changes there. But one thing changed. So what happened? So whether you want to do it physically or manually, I selected no, I don't want to do it through online assessment. I want physical only, I put. So I went to the assessing officer. He asked for data, everything I gave. End of the hearing, he said, Abhishek, once you go back to office, you scan and upload all the documents. I said, sir, I chose physical only. I did not choose online. He said, it is okay. Otherwise, I have to do it. You please go do it. So I said, okay, fine. I'll do it. In one more case, I had one difficult officer, one difficult assessing officer. I did not want to go meet him. So do you want to do it physically? I said, no, I don't want to do it physically. I want to do online only. Next day morning, I get a phone call. Abhishek, I hear that you are handling this case. I said, yes, sir, I am handling this case. Please come to my office. Sir, I chose online mode. I did not want physical. I chose online. No, it's okay. You still come to my office. So whether you chose yes or whether you chose no, 95% of the time people were still finding themselves in the room of the assessing officer. So it was considered to be a failure. This email assessment was considered to be a failure. That is why the grand gala launch, our Honorable Prime Minister on 13th of August, he said faceless assessment scheme will now come into effect. And immediately after this announcement, within 1 hour after the announcement, one following notice was issued by CBDT where they said all pending assessments except search cases and international tax cases automatically now transferred to the faceless assessment scheme. So gone. If you are not search case, if you are not a survey case now, if you are not international tax case, forget it. You cannot do physical. You have to do only faceless. Only faceless can be done now. So now the next important question you will ask. Very, very important question. How many of you have been getting notices under 1/4? Many of you will be getting all your notices now under this reopening. But are you getting it from NEAC? Is any of the notices that you're getting it from your jurisdictional officer, or you're getting it from the NEAC or the National E-Assessment Center? So now can you tell me, under reopening of notices, will it come under faceless or will it come under physical? Because the notices you are getting is from your physical jurisdictional assessing officer. So who should you respond to? Government came and said everything will be faceless, but you are getting notices from physical. Sir, what should I do in these scenarios? And I'm going to also give you, first address the elephant in the room, where I had also shared the message today, where the CBDT issued a notice today saying that extension of due dates. Many due dates were extended today, especially 2 very critical due dates. One being Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Due date for payment was scheduled on 30th of April. They have set time till 30th of June. Very good. Next, reopening of assessment. All those notices we have been getting, they have said before 30th of April due date. Now they have said, sir, you take up to 30th of June. 2 more months they have given the department to issue notices under section 148 for reopening. Now this is the fact. Whether it is right or wrong, I'm sure all of us will agree. When we wanted 1 day extension, because the server was down on 31st of January, when the server was down and we were requesting 1 day extension to file the return of income for assessees, we were told financial discipline has to be instilled in the minds of the people of India. So therefore, yet for the department, in June, another 6 months also, we don't know. But fact remains, today, the due dates for the department has been constantly extended. In my view, this is highly unfair because the COVID pandemic is the reason they are using. Same pandemic also, assessee is only suffering. The department does not have some special COVID situation. Everyone is on the same boat. So I find it very odd that this sort of announcement has been made. But what should we do? We have to live with it. So all your assessees, if you have not received 148 notice, be prepared. You will receive the notice again. Now, why I am telling this point, you will understand. In many cases, in fact, I have been advising many assessees also, where they've received a notice, maybe dated 4th April, 1st April, like that, they've received a notice for reopening of assessment. And you have to respond within 30 days. You have to respond within 30 days, where you have to file your return in response within 30 days. Now, what we were doing is that in that 30 days, on the 28th day, 29th day, we used to respond saying jurisdiction is not there for the notice. Now, why we are doing that is so that they'll have minimum time to issue a proper notice with the proper jurisdiction. I'll show you why. I've taken a screenshot also of a notice that we received yesterday for a case one auditor had shared with us. And we are challenging the notice itself. We are saying that in the very reopening itself is invalid. Forget going and handling the case on merits. We are challenging the technical ground itself. So therefore, under this faceless assessment era, this technicality is going to play a very, very key role for us. So this is the question, reopening of assessment. What happens? Is it physical or faceless? Just like in that Winner movie, Vadivel will say, no, sir, போன வாரம் தான் நீங்க சொன்னீங்க எல்லாமே ஃபேஸ்லெஸ்னா அது போன வாரம் நான் சொல்றது இந்த வாரம். So all your notices that you are getting now is your physical notices, but there is going to be a procedure on how it is going to be done faceless. So now let us quickly understand the provision of the law. Section 143(3)(a) is the empowering provision as far as faceless assessment is concerned. Now this section is not a new section. It was introduced way back in 2018. More than 3 years back, this section was introduced. Back then, when we were doing annual budget presentations, we are giving sessions, etc. Whenever we had come to this amendment, I used to skip it. Simply, they're bringing something. It is not going to play any impact. But look at the foresight. Nobody covered this provision in 2018. In 2021, it is the very foundation of the entire assessment procedure itself. So 3 critical lines. I have highlighted what is the critical points here. Eliminating the interface between the assessing officer and the assessee in the course of proceedings to the extent technologically feasible. Technology is the backbone of this entire scheme that we are all aware. There is nothing new that is getting developed over here. So that is a very basis of this entire faceless assessment scheme. Next, of course, optimizing the utilization of functional specialization. There is some disturbances coming. Yeah, I think it is fine now. Thank you so much. So the second point, optimizing utilization of resources through economies of scale and functional specialization. We have all studied in economics. When we are studying costing examination, that is when we last studied all this. Suddenly in income tax, they are saying economies of scale, functional specialization in the Income Tax Act. Where is this coming from? I will explain to you. Please remember that point. And the third one, introducing a team-based assessment with a dynamic jurisdiction. Dynamic jurisdiction, we are all clear now, where your assessee in Kumbakonam will now be assessed by somebody in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, anywhere across India, you don't know. But what do they mean by team-based assessment? Now we will find out. Ladies and gentlemen, the structure of this entire faceless assessment is basically two things. A NEAC, a National E-Assessment Center in Delhi, and a regional E-Assessment Center sprinkled across the country. But in my view, you forget this REAC concept, this regional E-Assessment Center itself, you forget. Instead, you remember what you're seeing on the screen now. There are going to be 4 units, 4 teams are going to be there under this faceless assessment scheme. A verification unit, a technical unit, a review unit, and an assessment unit. These are the 4 very, very powerful teams. So what are these income tax teams? What is their job? What are they going to do? How is it going to change how traditional assessment is being done? You have to first start off with the assessment unit. What does this assessment unit do? They identify the issues to be raised. They seek information and analyze information. They draft an assessment order. So this is the key role for them. Okay, I understood, straightforward. Now let us come to the verification unit. What does the verification unit do? The verification unit does conducting inquiries, examination of books of accounts, recording statements through video conferencing. But why? Why is this important? They need experts in each area. Why you need experts here? I tell you a practical case that I handled. One assessee that I was handling has been claiming agriculture income for many years now. Adangal chitta, everything available provided to the assessing officer. 143(1) assessment done, intimation order passed, fine, everything clear. Subsequently, reopening done beyond a period of 4 years. In the reopening, what is the basis for reopening? The auditor had asked. They said that Tahsildar, who had given the original Adangal and Chitta, he had lied. He was under pressure to give a wrong Adangal Chitta. He has changed his stance, saying actually there's no agriculture land. It is punctured land. It is Porambok land. He cannot grow anything like that. He has given a statement. So the auditor had told us to appear for the case. So the first thing I said is, when he is given a statement like this, I want to cross-examine. I want to cross-examine that Tahsildar. So immediately opportunity for cross-examination was to be granted by department. Department started dodging. So what they did, they'll put a hearing on so-and-so date. They'll say, come for cross-examination at 11 a.m. on so-and-so date. I'll go at 11 a.m. I'll wait for 1 hour. They'll say, oh, Tahsildar has not come, sir. You come after 3 days. I'll leave the office. I'll go to some other appointment. Then they will call. Sir, he has come now. If you can come in the next 20 minutes, we can do. How will I go in 20 minutes? They know it is not possible. So I'll say, sir, give another date. Then they'll give another date. Same thing will happen. Sir, our varla, sir, neenga vaanga or 1 hour appuram or at the time. If I go after, I will not go. They'll say correctly he came at the time. This repeatedly happened 3-4 times. Then I finally told my staff, one day I told, you keep all appointments clean. If they're saying today is this hearing is there, cross-examination is there, let me go whatever time they call. The moment they called, I said, I'm coming. I went there, I waited. For the first time, I saw that Tahsildar. So we sat for the cross-examination. And I asked, first thing, I said, why did you change your stance? You had given a statement earlier saying assessee has grown all these crops. Now you are saying that he has not grown. Why? He said, no, at the time assessee loan venum sonna. Loan vaangran sonna. Adhanala I gave a statement like that because he said he's going for a loan. I said, sir, you are a state government representative. You have been employed by the state government. Whether they are employing you to give certificates when somebody is taking a loan, you please tell me. He said, no, why you are asking like this? I said, no, because for you, by issuing like this, it is a vigilance issue. It's a corruption issue. You will get into problem. Immediately, he got scared. He started saying, no, actually, sir, department put pressure on me. That is the reason why I said changed the statement like that. Actually, crops were grown, sir. I am retired. I retired 2 years back. Suddenly, they called me and told me to come, so I have come. So when this happened, immediately that assessing officer, she stopped me. She said, Abhishek, you cannot continue this. I said, why? She said, no, assessee has to be present for cross-examination. I said, show me in the act, assessee has to come. I said, no, we can still continue. She said, no, we'll do one thing. You come back after 2 days. You come back after 2 days, we will continue the cross-examination. So I said, okay. We closed and we left. Next day morning, order is passed. The moment I left the room, the Tahsildar was called back, and behind my back, they have taken a statement from him saying that assessee has not come today for the cross-examination. This is what happened. He has lied, and assessee said he is going for a loan. So he has got a false adangal and chitta from the Tahsildar. Assessee failed to take opportunity of cross-examination, and then he has passed an adverse order. Ladies and gentlemen, now you may say that it's a very rare circumstance. How do I prove my position? Luckily, what happened is, whenever I do cross-examination, I request my staff to record it. So when I went on appeal, all I had to say is I have proof of a recording. I have the recording where I have done the cross-examination. The assessing officer was also present at the time. So therefore, they cannot suddenly change the stance. Now, the case was immediately given in our favor. But my point here, the point I'm trying to make is that if an assessing officer was adept, if she actually knew how to do a cross-examination, then the things would have been different. They could have asked a question: what crops are grown? How often you are growing it? Who do you sell the crops to? Do you sell it in cash or do you get it in check? How do you collect it? What fertilizers do you use? What are the expenses you incur in the agricultural land? All of these questions, if they asked the assessee, if it was false, he would have got caught. He would have not been able to give an answer in the cross-examination. But because the assessing officer was incapable, we stood to gain. Initially, we stood to lose, but we went on appeal, we were able to gain. Now the department is saying, we will have experts, people who know how to look at the books of accounts, who when they say, give all this information, when the assessing officer is asking you to give as per the checklist, you are giving all the information. That person who is looking at the information should know what to look for. We have certain assessing officers who have studied MBBS and they have come under the IRS route. So when you ask for journal entries, etc., I don't know how capable they are in identifying it. So some of them are, some of them aren't. But now, under the faceless assessment scheme, you will have experts who will be looking into each angle. You will have experts who will be doing the cross-examination. The next team, technical unit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the deal breaker. I will tell you why. The technical unit is going to have providing technical assistance or advice on legal, accounting, TP, or other matters. What do I mean? I'll give you one more example, practical scenario. One case that I handled, the assessing officer gave a checklist of information. 25 items they wanted in that assessee's case. We had given 21 items. 4 items we said, give us some time. It was around the time there was floods in Chennai. So assessee had lost certain data. So we said, you give us 4 days time. We will get the invoices. We have asked for the duplicate invoices. We will give it to you. Assessing officer said, nothing doing. I'll give you 2 days. The next 2 days, if you don't give, I'll pass the order. On the 3rd day, the assessee went and gave the details. But assessing officer had already passed the order. Okay, fine, no problem. But the order, when it was passed, he has made multiple additions. He should have made multiple additions on the 4 grounds which we have not given, the 4 details we have not given. Instead, the assessing officer, what he has done, he has said, assessee is a company. It's a loss-making unit. It's a loss-making unit, loss-making company. So much is their turnover. We have asked them for this information. They have not given anything. So we are passing an ex parte order. We are passing an extra party order, best judgment assessment. Best judgment assessment is going to be done where the entire sales on presumptive basis, 8% of the sales is going to be the profit. That is the tax on that. It's actually a loss-making company, only 2 years since they started. Now, when we went on appeal, I was telling the auditor, I said, don't worry. First hearing itself, we will win the case. When we went on appeal, all I had to say is one point. So this is a company. Presumptive taxation does not apply to companies. So where you are tax audit case, where you are a company, you cannot do presumptive taxation. It is meant for small assessees. The appeal commissioner also was shocked. He said, who passed this order? How can he pass an order like this doing presumptive taxation? So when eventually, even I was very curious, I wanted to know what happened. When I did the research, I found the assessing officer who passed the order. The assessing officer who passed the order for 12 years. For 12 years, that assessing officer was posted in the exemptions ward, where he was handling only trust cases, non-profit cases, society cases. Suddenly, 1 month before time barring date, he has been transferred to corporate circle. That person does not even know income tax, how to tax companies, because he's forgotten. 12 years he's been doing only trusts. So in a matter of 1 month, he has to understand the tax law for companies. He has to understand the issues that to be raised. He has to ask for the details from the company, then respond to them, issue show cause notice 2 times, hear all their hearings, then pass the effective assessment order for that assessee. Like this, for 60 assessees he needs to do in his jurisdiction within 1 month. Whether you can do an effective job, the big question mark is that despite all of these challenges, our assessing officers were doing a very good job. But really speaking, it leads to circumstances where there are high-pitched orders, either in the favor of assessee or against the assessee. In the example I gave you now, it happened to be in my favor. There are various other complex issues, unlike presumptive taxation, which is straightforward. Complex issues like 54F. When can you claim 54F? I'm an assessee. I have sold my land. Then I am reinvesting it in a house property. I am already owning an apartment. In that same apartment, it has 4 flats are there in 1 floor. I am already owning 2 on the same floor. I have broken the wall. I have joined it. I have made it 1 house. Now I am buying a 3rd apartment in the same floor. I am saying I am going to claim this under 54F. I already have 2 apartments on the same floor. I have broken the wall and I have made it 1 apartment. Now I want to buy a 3rd one. Can I claim it under 54F at all? So complex issues. Already I can see many people are having different answers over here. Some are saying that yes, you can claim. But various courts across the country have held so many different decisions. One court has held, as long as there is a common entrance, it will be considered to be a single house. Some courts have held, it does not matter. If there are separate meters, each house has a separate electric meter, then each will be considered to be a separate house. One more decision. The Act says 1 residential house. It does not say 1 unit. So even if it is 3 houses, you are making it into 3 units, you are joining it and making 1 house. It is considered to be 1 house. So many different decisions across the country on the same technical matter. So there are huge question marks. Many assessing officers were finding it difficult. But now the technical unit is going to make the difference. The technical unit will have experts in each area. Accounting matters, we'll refer it to our accounting expert. Capital gains matter, we will go to a capital gains team. Transfer pricing matter, it will go to transfer pricing team. So therefore, for each area of expertise, the department is going to have verticals. Remember, we discussed functional specialization. This only is that functional specialization. So therefore, where I am doing assessment of an assessee, all I have to do is ask my doubt. This capital gains, these are the facts of the case. Can you get an opinion for me? They'll send it to an expert person in capital gains who will come back with the answer. Sir, 54F is against your assessee in your jurisdiction. There is a case which is saying you should not allow. Please disallow it. Please disallow the exemption. So technical unit is going to be a deal breaker for the department. One more deal breaker in the form of the review unit. This review unit is also a huge deal breaker for the department. Why, I will tell you. This is my area of favorite area, where in appeals, whenever we draft an appeal, we always start the appeals, the grounds of the appeals, we always start it on technical grounds. We do not start it on merits. However strong or however weak the case may be, we always start it on technical grounds. And let me tell you, my dear friends, so many cases that we have won on the assessee side, purely on technical grounds. I'll give you an example. Penalty under the erstwhile provisions of penalty provisions, you had to select for underreporting of income or furnishing inaccurate particulars. you had to select the decision in Madras High Court in the favor of the assessee, where they said, if in the notice issued for levying penalty, the assessing officer has not struck off the option, whether it is underreporting or whether it is furnishing inaccurate particulars, he has to strike off whatever is not applicable. Suppose both are highlighted, then the entire penalty is invalid. There was a huge decision, hugely used by assessees, because no assessing officer used to strike off. They used to just issue the notice as is. So various orders came in favor of us, purely on technical grounds. Actually, in merits, penalty justified. Assessee 100% fraud. Facts there is no doubt about it. But on a technical ground, we used to get the penalty quashed. Now, there is going to be a review unit. What is the review unit going to do? They are going to check every order. They are going to check every notice, whether everything has been complied with. They will check underreporting or misreporting or inaccurate particulars. Have you struck off the option? No, sir, I have not struck off. Or you take reopening of assessment. There's a procedure that needs to be followed. It was levied under the Supreme Court decision in CIT versus GK and Driveshaft 2003 decision, where they said, when it comes to reopening of assessment, a procedure is laid down that needs to be followed. When you receive a notice under section 148, first, what you should do, you have to file a return reasons for reopening. After asking for reasons for reopening, the assessing officer is duty bound to provide the reasons for the reopening. Next provision, the assessee can raise his objections to the reasons for reopening. The assessing officer is duty bound to dispose of each of the objections raised by the assessee. Only after all these steps, he can start the reassessment proceedings itself. He can start the reassessment proceedings only after following all of these steps. If at any point of time you have asked for the reasons for reopening or you have raised the objections and the assessing officer has not disposed of it, he has not provided you the reasons, then please note, immediately you can go on an appeal and win the case. Don't even worry about the merits. I asked for the reasons for reopening. They were not provided. The case will be quashed and given in favor of the assessee. Now, however, review unit will check all that. They will ask, has the assessee asked for reasons for reopening? Many of you have got the reopening and assessment notices now. Once you have filed the return in response, how many of you have asked for the reasons for reopening? Please put it on record. Write to your jurisdictional assessing officer. Ask them for the reasons for reopening. Because now, if you ask for the reasons for reopening and they don't provide it, if review unit also misses it, then at the draft show cause assessment stage, you can easily win the case at the assessment proceedings level itself. But the review unit are there for this only, where they will say, assessee has asked for reasons. Have you provided reasons? No, we have not provided. Facts are there very strongly in department favor. Then they will say, please give them the reasons, do the entire process again. This is how the review unit is going to play a key role. Because in appeal stage, so many cases we are winning purely on technical ground. The government has simply come out and said, if we lose the case also, okay, please don't lose the case on technical ground. That is why you have an expert in the review unit. Now this assessment unit, verification unit, technical unit, review unit. All these four teams, all things that we have discussed for the last 30-35 minutes was being done by a single assessing officer. Remember, I told a point that it is going to be done in a team-based assessment. It's going to be done in a team-based assessment. This is the team-based assessment where you have four teams. They're all coming together to do one objective, one function. That is the entire purpose of this team-based assessment. So you are going to have experts in each area and each person is going to take care of that particular area so that when it comes to the final order, it is going to be passed as a team. Now, coming back to the reopening of notices. Now, I thought since we have discussed how the entire proceeding is going to handle, I'll quickly explain to you for your reopening of assessment how you need to I have put a screenshot of one note. Now, couple of examples I have put how you can respond in these particular cases. The first thing you have to note is that notices are being sent beyond the due date. Look at this, assessment year 13-14. The date of issue of the notice is 7th April 2021. Date of issue, I am not saying date of receipt. Date of issue of the notice itself 7/4/2021. Ladies and gentlemen, under section 149 of the Act, the timelines are prescribed as to when the due dates are for issuing notices. A notice can be issued for a maximum of 6 years from the end of the assessment year, end of the relevant assessment year. 6 years from the end of 2013-14 assessment year ends on 2020. So on 31st March 2020 is the last date he could have sent a notice for reopening of your assessment. Unless it has foreign assets or foreign income, they can reopen up to 16 years. Otherwise, the maximum was capped at 6 years. So some of you may ask, Abhishek, now under the latest budget, they have said that they can reopen up to 10 years. Now, why you are saying 6 years over here? Ladies and gentlemen, please note, this notice is not being issued under the new scheme. It is not being issued under the new budget. Today, when I started off my presentation, very deliberately, I put today's CBDT press release, where they said extension of the timeline for issue of notices up to 30th of June. So up to 30th of June, when they're issuing the notices for reopening of assessment, they are still bound by the 6 years. They cannot reopen up to 10 years. They are still bound by the 6 years reopening. Why? Because they are still reopening the cases under the old scheme, under the old reopening of assessment phase. How do you know the difference, you may ask? How do I know whether it is new or old? Sir, under the new reopening of assessment, before they issue the notice itself, they have to issue a show cause notice. Please note that point. Before you get a notice under section 148, they will issue a show cause notice as to why a notice under 148 should not be issued if they are issuing it under the budget, what they have announced in the latest Finance Act, reopening up to 10 years, maximum 3 years, unless more than 3 years means the income sought to be evaded must be 50 lakhs or more, and approval of the Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax must be obtained. That they can do only if they get a show cause notice, and then only they will issue 148 under the latest budget, what are the changes. So therefore, if you have got any notice for reopening now, it has come all under the old scheme, where they cannot reopen beyond 6 years maximum scenario also. So first thing, if you get a notice like this, what should you do? Please note, I am going to brief you very quickly how in the faceless assessment era this reopening is going to work. The power of reopening still lies with your jurisdictional assessing officer. He only has the information on which he can suggest the reopening should be done. So issuing the reopening notice still is there with your very jurisdictional officer in Kumbakonam or Chennai, wherever your assessee is based out of. So once this notice is issued under section 148, you have to log in to the income tax website. You have to go to the e-proceeding tab. You have to select that assessment year. And when you select the submit option, you will only have an option to file a return. You will not have any space to type a response. So what should I do here? It is reopened beyond the due date. If I file a return in response to it, that means I'm accepting it is okay and I'm going along with the assessment proceedings. So where you're issuing a time barred notice, the notice that you can see on your screen is time barred. It is beyond the due date. Please write a letter to your jurisdictional assessing officer, put it in Tapal, get a seal, get a sticker, get a signature, something, get the acknowledgement proof so that you have it on record. So that even if they pass an assessment order, when you go on an appeal, you can clearly mention it is a void ab initio. You will win the case easily. Many notices are being issued which are time barred. So please be very, very wary and careful of the same. The next one, this is a very, very important technical point. It is a very important technical point, which will again be very useful for you in your appeals or assessment stage. Now, this is the second notice that I've put as an example over here. Notices issued without jurisdiction. Now, this assessment year in question for this assessee is assessment year 2015-16. Whether it falls within the 6-year criteria, yes, it falls within the 6-year criteria, because 6 years from end of 15-16 is 2022, 31st of March 2021. So the notice is valid. It is not time barred. Now, why am I still saying there is a technical issue? Please note the last line. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very useful change. This is a very, very useful slide. Please note for it, because the last line you can see here, this notice is being issued after obtaining the necessary satisfaction of the non-corporate range for Chennai. Now, section 151 of the Act, if you read the section, it will say who is the approving authority for issuing your reopening notices. Whenever a notice is being issued under section 148, beyond 4 years, when a reopening notice is being done, beyond 4 years, 4 years over, because before 2021, 4 years, if you go back 4 years means 2017. So up to assessment year 16-17, they can reopen with the assessing officer itself. Moment it crosses assessment year 16-17, any year before that, then approval has to be obtained from the Commissioner of Income Tax. So therefore, the PCIT or PCCIT has to approve it. Here, please see the notice, reopened beyond 4 years, but satisfaction of the non-corporate range for Chennai. We don't even know whether it is a joint commissioner, assistant commissioner, who is the person who has approved this is not at all clear in the notice. This notice is invalid. This notice is invalid. So if you have received a notice like this, Mottaya, yaar approving officer theriyama irukna, straight away, please write a letter. Please write a letter to your jurisdictional assessing officer. Put it on record. Maybe you have already filed a return in response to the notice. It does not matter. Now write a letter and put it on record saying the jurisdictional assessing officer is only approved this letter. The approval of the Commissioner of Income Tax as mandated by section 151 has not been followed. Why I am telling all these points? You have to understand why the government have extended this date. The assessing officer under severe pressure, left, right and center, they are issuing the reopening notices. So I'm sure many of you would have got for your assessees like this, where they are not complying with the guidelines. They are not complying with what is required as per the Act. So therefore, it's an opportunity for you, if you have received a notice like this, to make your life easier by responding to it, by making note that it is invalid, it is improper. The notice is improper. So now, before we proceed, we have to know the procedure for the faceless assessment scheme. We cannot blindly go and appear without knowing what are the risks associated with it. It looks like it's a very, very easy scheme to understand, but let us take a practical scenario of why the practicalities may be slightly different. So what you see on the screen is my effort in making this entirely into a single screenshot. Your entire faceless assessment scheme, I've tried to make it into a single screenshot in a very easy to understandable fashion. So once you look at the screen, straight away you will understand the scheme. So we'll take a practical scenario now. Your assessee is getting a notice from the NEAC under the faceless assessment scheme. How to proceed? So the NEAC is the only issuing authority under the faceless assessment scheme. Please note, you are not going to get the notice from the assessing officer. You will get it only from the NEAC. So the NEAC will serve a notice on the assessee. The assessee in turn will submit a response to the NEAC. Then the NEAC will allocate an assessment unit. Now straight away you will ask, so then why am I getting reopening assessment from a jurisdictional assessing officer? Sir, as I told you, the power of reopening lies with your jurisdictional assessing officer. The moment it is reopened, once you file the return of income, reasons for reopening, he will send you 143.2 or 142.1. The moment he sends you these two, it will be transferred to the faceless scheme. Till 142.1. Till that stage, it will be with your jurisdictional assessing officer. The moment he issues those notice, it will be transferred to the faceless assessment scheme. So the NEAC will allocate or assign the case to an assessment unit on a random basis. It is a computerized process. It will be allocated to the assessment unit. Then the assessment unit, they are going through whatever information you have given. Then they are saying, this is not enough. I need more information. So can the assessment unit write to the assessee? No. Only the NEAC communicates with the assessee. So the assessment unit will write to the NEAC. They will write to the NEAC saying, I want this information. You please send it to the assessee and collect the information. So the NEAC will write to the assessee. Assessee will respond. Assessee will respond back to the NEAC only. NEAC once again, they will forward this back to the assessment unit. So everything comes through the NEAC. All your calculations, all your submissions, all your responses happens only to NEAC. So now assessment unit wanted more information. They've got it. Next, what they are doing? They want verification to be done. What do you mean by verification? We'll take an example. Your assessee is based in Kumbakonam or somewhere in Tamil Nadu. Many of your documents and deeds will be in Tamil. If by fluke or by chance, under the faceless scheme, your assessing officers in Delhi, what will happen? Today, when we call our institute also, when we speak in English, they don't understand in Delhi. So when they are going to speak in Tamil, how are they going to understand your sale deed, translate it and pass an effective order? So in these cases, it is called a request for a verification. So your assessment unit based in Kumbakonam or Delhi, wherever it is, they will write to the NEAC saying, these documents are in a language I do not understand. Please do a verification. Or assessee has given this translation to me. Please verify if the translation is correct. So the NEAC, they will refer it to a verification unit. They will give an assessing officer based somewhere in Tamil Nadu, not in Kumbakonam. Deliberately, he'll be from some other part of Tamil Nadu. Or we'll take a situation. We discussed agricultural income before. So I am saying I have agricultural land. How will they verify it? The NEAC will send an inspector based in Chennai to verify whether that land is actually agricultural. So when he comes there, he'll say, no, there's a factory which is there. There's no agricultural activity happening over here. Like that, he will give a report to the NEAC. The NEAC, once again, they will forward it back to the assessment unit. So now, assessment unit wanted more information. They wanted verification to be done, verified. Now, capital gains matter, 54F issue. That person in assessment unit has been in exemptions ward. What does he do? He will write to the NEAC once again. He will say, sir, these are the facts of the case. This is a capital gains issue. I don't know what to do. I am not a capital gains expert. So what will NEAC do? NEAC will refer the case to a technical unit. Technical unit will see the facts. They will say, yes, 54 cannot be claimed. They'll write back to the NEAC. NEAC, once again, they will forward it to the assessment unit. So therefore, now they wanted more information. They got it. They wanted verification to be done, verified. They wanted technical assistance, that also given. Now they'll finally pass an order, what is known as a draft assessment order. Please note this point. It is known as a draft assessment order. Why? Remember, we discussed a review unit. That unit which will check whether everything is drafted correctly, whether it's a speaking order, non-speaking order. One case which I had handled, there was almost 8 or 9 additions made. 8 or 9 additions made for the assessee. You know what was the length of the assessment order? It was 1 page, front and back. For 9 additions, single page, they have been able to pass an assessment order. When we went on an appeal, the tribunal simply set aside saying simple matter. They said it is a non-speaking order. Please pass a speaking order and come back. So therefore, the review unit will check all this. You have made 8 additions. How you have passed only 1 page order? Please explain in detail what is the rationale behind all your additions. The review unit will check whether all the procedural guidelines have been complied with. And then they will send it back to the assessment unit with their suggestions. They wanted more information, they got it. They wanted verification, verified. They wanted technical assistant, technical assessment order, draft and verified. Now at least can I pass the final assessment order? Even at this stage, they are going to pass something known as a draft assessment order. Why? Now, this is a good step. This is a very good step under the scheme, because this is something we have been fighting for a very long time. One case which I had handled, it was a penny stock issue. It was a penny stock issue in this assessee's case. Penny stock was a fraudulent transaction, but this assessee, he happened to get a tip from his friend saying, buy this stock. So he bought the stock. Suddenly the price went up in the market. He sold it. He did not even sell it at the highest price. He sold it and he claimed the exemption for the capital gains on that. Suddenly what happened? Under penny stock scheme, all the cases of penny stock got caught and reopened by the department. So almost 8 or 9 hearings I had. I was able to provide bank statements, demat statements, the share certificate, everything I could provide. In this assessee's case, everything was genuine. I was able to provide. But unfortunately, department took a stand that irrespective of penny stock, whether genuine or not, we are going to make the additions. So I told the assessee, I told him upfront, sir, you had 9 hearings, but I'm going to tell you that very likely they will be making the addition. Assessee also said, yes, Abhishek, I accept. It is my fault only. I'm ready to pay the tax. Okay, no problem. Assessment order passed. 2 additions made. First addition, disallowance of capital gains, no problem. Second addition, unexplained movement in capital. Assessee has failed to explain why the capital has increased by 2 crores. Assessee is saying, I had LIC policy that matured during the year. 3 or 4 policies I got. That is the reason it has moved. TDS has been deducted on it. You can look at the 26 years also. Why he is making this addition? 9 hearings, 2 show cause notices, multiple hours of discussion with that assessing officer. Never once was this issue of movement of capital raised by him. But when the assessment order is passed, suddenly second ground is done. Now, once again, everyone will say, you can go and appeal, you'll easily win the case. But we had the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. I wanted to come under the scheme for the penny stock, but I cannot do anything about the second ground. I cannot cherry pick. I cannot go under the scheme only on one ground. It's not something I can rectify under 154. So I am forced to go on appeal. I'm forced to miss the scheme because an addition was made behind my back. 9 hearings, 2 show cause notices. Not even once was movement in capital ever discussed by the assessing officer. But when the order is passed, he has passed it. So this is happening across the country. Many cases like this, we had made various representation to the department saying a final show cause notice must be issued to the assessee before the order is passed. And I'm happy to say under the faceless scheme, you have that final opportunity. Well, after the entire draft assessment order is made, they will put excerpts of that assessment order into your show cause notice and they will ask you, do you have any submissions? Now, some of you may ask, is this simply for show or is it a genuine show cause notice? Now, recently I handled a case which had come to me at the final show cause notice stage. The final stage it had come. The assessee was a private family trust and really speaking, the order was effectively passed. In fact, in the draft show cause notice, the final show cause notice, they have shown experts saying that penalty is also going to be levied. At this point of time, I was able to make submissions, give the proof, give various construction of the house, whatever expenses have been incurred, everything I was able to scan, upload and put it on the website. And they were able to give a clean assessment order finally. So what I'm trying to say is this final show cause notice is a real opportunity for you to object anything that is being done behind your back or where you have not been given an opportunity to explain. You will be given a final show cause notice. Only after this final show cause notice, only after your response to this will the final assessment order be passed. Now, this is the entire faceless scheme at a glance. Now, after I've explained, I'm sure when you look at this chart, you'll be able to understand the scheme very, very easily. And whenever you have any doubts, if you're doing any faceless assessment, you can quickly look at this chart and understand it. Now, the big question. It's such a long process, so many units, so many teams already received your orders under phase scheme, but orders are being passed in less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks. Normally for our assessment, we used to sit for 7-8 months, asking ourselves, say, you come next week, you come here, you come then, you ask my assistant, he is typing it for me. Under the faceless scheme, despite all these lengthy procedures I have told you, in less than 2 weeks, orders are being passed. Not only that, along with the order, penalty notice is also being sent. Normally, we used to get no penalty under section 271C will be initiated separately. Like that one line, you will never hear anything about the penalty. But under this faceless scheme, along with your assessment order, you are getting a penalty notice also. So this is what your notice looks like under the faceless assessment scheme. I'm sure all of you must have already been familiar with this. But I thought, let me take this opportunity to share how to make certain new submissions, what are new developments under this faceless assessment scheme. The first thing is adding an authorized representative. Normally in physical appearance, we'll either give a power of attorney, wakalatnama, or some other proof that we are appearing on behalf of the assessee to make the submissions. Under the faceless scheme, it is assumed that only the assessee is making the submission unless you add authorized representative. I'll tell you why this is an important point. If I, as an authorized representative, am making a point on behalf of the assessee, and suddenly I realize at the appeal stage that that submission is wrong, I can change the authorized representative. Instead of Abhishek, his father V. Murli is appearing for the case, he can say. And we can say the previous person was not aware, he made a wrong submission. Like that, we can change the stance. But where if the assessee himself comes and appears, make a statement as an assessee, that statement is final. You cannot dispute a fact once you are an assessee. So if you want to appear as an authorized representative, which means it gives you the fluidity to change your answer at each appellate stage, better you select authorized representative and you make your submission. Because if you don't add authorized representative, then it is presumed that you are appearing by yourself as an assessee. So if you are making a submission without adding authorized representative, that means the assessee is making the submission. Now, responding to notices, this is how your screen looks like under the faceless assessment. You have the notice ID, the section in which the notice is issued, the description, the date of issue, the document ID, and by what date, the response due date, by what date you need to make your response. Not only that, luckily 2 weeks back, after months of fighting, we have got the department to add 2 buttons. One is seek adjournment. If you want an adjournment, there's a button called seek adjournment. So you can give the reasons for adjournment and you can seek adjournment. Next is a video conferencing option. So finally, after various difficulty, they have added a video conferencing option. But now you may ask, sir, every case I want video conferencing. Naturally, we all want to explain our case. We do not want to type it out. It's easier for us to explain it. So in that case, can I ask for video conferencing in every case? You cannot. Look at my screen over here. This is how you need to make a submission. Whenever you ask for video conferencing, it will give you a drop-down box of why you want the video conferencing you have to select. One option will be the case is too complex. I cannot explain. 2, the case is too voluminous. I am not able to submit it by the normal method. 3, any other challenges that I am facing. 4, others. So you have to give these reasons, only then it will be approved whether your case is fitting of video conferencing before the option is given. Now in this case that I handled, I have said it is humbly requested due to voluminous nature of supportings, an opportunity may be given to explain the same to be considered. Identical facts in a relevant assessee case. So I have attached that relevant assessee's case to show that I have a strong case to explain the final facts in a virtual hearing. So in this case, the VC was considered and we are able to give a good hearing. The next is the adjournment. Now, naturally, seeking adjournments is something we used to do very, very often. Under the faceless scheme, it was very, very tight. If you had 2 weeks time, means 2 weeks time you have to respond. 11:59 p.m. means 11:59 p.m. you have to respond, otherwise the window is closed. So we said there must be some way for us to ask for an adjournment. So now the department have brought about a new button saying that you can seek adjournment. So when you seek adjournment here, see the first line. Adjournment cannot be sought for greater than 15 calendar days from the notice response date. So maximum 2 weeks only I can take an adjournment. This calendar will not allow me to select more dates than 2 weeks. Then I have to select the reason why I'm asking for adjournment. My mother went to the hospital, my father went to the hospital. If I say all that, they will say attach the bill. So better you say reasons where you went to the doctor, you cannot show the proof. So seek the reasons for your opening. Please put, seek the reasons for adjournment. Have documentation. You may have to upload that reason. You may have to upload the documentation for that reason. So be little careful here. Everything is on record. Unlike before, we used to say, please allow me. They used to say, okay, no documentation, nothing. Here you have to establish your documentation very, very clearly when you're seeking the adjournment. So now, of course, the big question, as a Singh officer who's sitting in your Kumbakonam area, Chennai area, who's passed his IRS exam, what is his role now? So his role has become suddenly very, very limited. His role has become very, very limited. So what is he going to do? Collection and recovery of demand. Once the order is passed, he will call you, sir, client, sir, 20% at least pay panna solunga. You are going on appeal. All that is still going to be done by a jurisdictional assessing officer. Rectification under section 154. Any error apparent on record, if you want a rectification to be done, you can go to your physical assessing officer. Your jurisdictional assessing officer does not change. Portal, go to profile. Go to profile. You can see who your jurisdictional assessing officer is. You can go to him and ask for rectification under section 154. Next, give effect to appellate orders. Give effect to appellate orders. Once the appellate authority is passed an order, he has to give effect to it. That's all. Only the last power is the real power with your jurisdictional assessing officer. Proposal to launch prosecution proceedings. In the last 5 years, the prosecution proceedings has gone up by more than 300%. In my view, under the faceless scheme, once the assessing officer is left only with the prosecution power, I expect the number of cases will be even more. It will be even higher than before. So please be very, very careful. So what should we do? Please note, your communication of notices is going to come only in 3 ways. Either email or through SMS or WhatsApp or through a mobile application. This mobile application is still not developed. So currently only 2 ways, email and SMS. Whenever you log into the income tax portal, there will be one contact update, one box will come as a pop-up. 95% of the time, all of us will do skip only. Even I will do that skip button only, I'll press. Please don't press the skip button. Update the contact details. Ensure you update the phone number. Ensure you update your email ID so that you are receiving the communication. Otherwise, the department will say, we have already served on the assessee. He has not responded. So under the faceless scheme, you will not get physical notices. Only for this reassessment, you are getting physical notices. That also is a temporary thing. It is going to be a matter of time where physical notices are not going to be received. Only your online notices will constitute your service. So please update your mobile number and email ID online. So can I opt out of the scheme? No, but the following cases will not be covered under the faceless scheme. Search and survey cases will not be covered under the faceless scheme. As it stands as of today, I'm repeating because in some of the meetings that I had a few months back, that under the faceless scheme. But currently, given the volume of information, volume of data collected, cultural challenges, it will be in Tamil, it will be in whatever regional language, it may be impractical. It makes sense to do it physically. But let me tell you, there are talks in current discussion where they want to make even such cases under the faceless scheme. So search and survey cases as it stands, is going to be covered by the central circle. So if your assessee was subject to survey, it will be done through a physical assessment. International tax cases will not be covered by faceless. Where internet connectivity is poor, it will not be covered by faceless. And of course, exceptional circumstances, Principal Commissioner of Income Tax has the power to direct a case can be done under a physical assessment and not faceless. Of course, one point to notice, however close the Principal Commissioner is to you, he is not going to simply allow in your case. Every single case that is going to be directed from the faceless to the physical mode is going to be verified and checked by the CBDT. Everything is going to go straight to the top. So they will inquire with the Principal Commissioner why he transferred it from faceless to physical under the faceless regime. So you have a NFPC, National Faceless Penalty Center, also has been established. And of course, as I discussed, it's going to be very, very strict. Along with your assessment order, penalty order is also coming. Your penalty notice is also coming alongside it. So you have to respond within time. And under the National Faceless Penalty Scheme, there's going to be two units. There's going to be a penalty unit and a penalty review unit. So first one unit, they will draft the penalty order. Next, you will have a review unit that will check the penalty order and it will be passed. So otherwise, all the procedures are the same as faceless assessment. Faceless appeal, what is it different? Now we know that the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals has also become faceless. Here now you have three units. Assessment unit one, sorry, appeal unit one, which will select the case, which will take up the hearing. They'll pass a draft order. Then you have appeal unit two. They will review the draft order of the appeal unit one. They'll give the suggestions and variations. Then you have appeal unit three. They will review what appeal unit two did and then they will pass the order. I don't know why they stopped at 3. They could have appeal unit 4. They will review what 3 did. 5 will review what 4 did. I don't understand why they need to have 3 units here. I think it could have been done with 2 units itself. But for whatever reason, 3 units have been selected. As it stands today, CIT appeals under the faceless scheme has not yet passed any order. So I don't know if any of you have received any orders under the faceless appeal scheme. But it is yet to pass an order as it stands because there is some complexities over here. So certain cases are not covered under the faceless appeal scheme. If you want to ask what? Serious fraud cases. What do you mean by serious fraud? We don't know. There's no definition. 2, where there is major tax evasion. What is major tax evasion? We don't know. No limit prescribed. Sensitive matters. I don't know what is sensitive matter. Black money matters, at least I know, comes under Black Money Act. What do they mean by sensitive matters? I don't know. Such cases. So such cases will be done physical hearing only. Central circle, you will have an appellate commissioner. He will only take care of the appeal cases. And of course, international tax cases are also exempt from the faceless appeals. Now, what about IT-80? And this is what I used to repeatedly say when people used to ask me, Abhishek, faceless scheme, what will happen? A lot of adverse orders coming. I said, don't worry, we have the IT-80. At IT-80 stage, we will win the case. Don't worry, we will win the case there. The latest budget, what happened? They said IT-80 is also going to be faceless. So why blood is the same blood only? IT-80 is also going to be faceless. But as it stands, the procedure is not yet notified. So as it stands, we are still having all our hearings on a WebEx mode. In fact, till last week, we had physical hearings also. But due to the increase in COVID cases, the physical bench is now closed. They're having, but daily we are having through WebEx mode, we are having hearings. It is actually going very well. And I personally think if they keep it in WebEx mode itself, it is a very good thing. But there are discussions that procedures will be codified very, very soon to make it faceless. So IT-80 also, in a matter of days, it's going to be made a faceless scheme. So finally, what should we do? First thing, as I told you, update the contact details. Second, get good scanning equipment. It may seem funny, but everything we are going to be scanning and uploading on that income tax portal. So ensure you get good scanning equipment so that you don't lose the case saying document was not clear. Third, very important point, improve the quality of your drafting and presentation of your submissions. Ladies and gentlemen, under the faceless scheme, by today, more than 1,500, 2,000 orders have been passed. Many adverse orders that have been passed owing to poor drafting, poor responses from the assessee side or the auditor, lawyer, whoever is handling the case. We have to improve the quality of drafting of our submissions. Now here, I want to make a point, because generally, there used to be a fear to refer the case to somebody else within the same region because they will take the file and go off. Now under the faceless scheme, there is no case of somebody having any influence over officer, etc. So therefore, you can refer the case to anyone across the country. You need not be restricted to referring to someone in the same region as you, who has good relationship with the officer, etc. That concept is gone. So please refer the case. If you are not confident to either make the quality of your submissions better, or you feel it is not your area of expertise, you can refer the case to someone who's an expert in that and he can handle the case. As far as the arrangement can be, you can both come into a mutual discussion how you want to take it forward. But you don't have to fear losing the file, and you can refer the case to someone who's an expert in the matter. But end of the day, the client should not suffer. That is the most important thing. If the quality of the submission, if the quality of the drafting is poor, then the client is going to lose the case. Then appeal you have to go, that is also faceless. ITAT will go, that is also faceless. So everything you cannot go and pile up at the High Court. At the assessment stage itself, you need to know how to handle it properly. If it was physical, we can go and explain, we can make all the illustrations. It will be easier for the assessing officer also to understand. But unfortunately, we are in a faceless assessment era. So please remember, the quality of your drafting, the quality of your submissions have to have certain merit, and it has to be good enough to pass the test, litmus test of a foreign assessing officer reading it. Next, prepare and submit prompt responses to all notices. Needless to say, as I told you, if you want to take an adjournment, use the seek adjournment option. Don't miss the date. If they say 11:59 p.m. means 11:59 p.m. If they say 10:59 a.m., 10:59 a.m. is the cutoff date. Ensure you make all your submissions within the time. Don't miss the date. And final one, take up appeals seriously. I think that's a very especially in Mofussil areas. I know in Kumbakonam also many people do take appeals now, but a few years back appeals was not very preferred. But now things have to change, because no concept of sometimes certain assessing officers, they will say, I will not levy penalty, you don't go on appeal, or they will say, I will help in some other case, you don't go on an appeal here. So all those days are gone. No concept of helping anybody. So if you don't go on an appeal, the client will suffer. If you go on an appeal, the chances of winning are much higher. So my suggestion here, definitely take up appeals as a very serious option. It is a new vertical also for people, or you refer it to someone who can take up the case more effectively. But end of the day, faceless assessment is here to stay. And let me tell you, my dear friends, that a lot of practical issues are there with it. And I'm sure if you keep all of this in mind, we'll be able to overcome it and deliver for our clients, because the landscape of our profession has changed. We need to move with the change. I think it's a good step forward. There are a lot of practical issues, but going forward, this is what the government wants. So we must also change our ways to it. So I have a lot of case laws that I've covered in this presentation. I'll share the PPT with the organizers and the participants here. I'll be happy to give it. I'll also leave my WhatsApp number on the screen. So if anybody wants it, you can just drop me a message. I'll send the presentation to you. So thank you so much to the organizers for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to address over here. We can take any questions if required. Over to the organizers.
Good
Sir, I
evening,
think you're
Abhishek.
muted. Yes.
Vijay Sardi here.
Yes, thank you, Vijay Sardi sir.
How are you?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. I have posted my queries in the chat box. I have got 3 queries.
Okay, I'll hand over the session to the organizer. Saravana Sundar sir, I think you're on mute. So we cannot hear you.
Hello.
Chairman sir, you're
Are
still
you
on
audible,
mute.
sir? You're audible?
Yes, now it's audible.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. We have some questions for 15 minutes.
I will read out from the chat box, and if any
Okay, those who
member wants to unmute and ask also, they can unmute and ask. So shall I read it out and answer, sir?
okay, sir, no problem, sir.
So first, Vijay sir has asked a question.
Let me post it.
Assessment was completed under section 143.3. Now notice under 148. Whether addition made under 143.3, if any, to be considered in return. Sir, here that option is left to you. If you have gone on appeal, then you need not add that. If you want to add it now because it has come to an end, then you can add it under section 148 when you're filing a return in response to that and pay the tax on it. If you have already paid the tax on it, then it does not make a big impact. But please note, if you are including it when you are filing a return in response to 148, that means you are accepting that as an income, you are accepting that as an addition. My view, if you are fighting it out, do not admit it. If the matter is closed, you are not going on any appeal anywhere, then you can admit it, no problem. Second point, there is a mistake apparent on record in the order passed under section 143.3. Whether rectification to be made before jurisdictional assessing officer or NAC, because submit button allows to make replies in e-proceeding tabs even after receipt of order. You're absolutely right, Vijay sir. Here, as I told you in the session, the power of rectification still lies with the jurisdictional assessing officer. That has not changed. That has not changed. So that still lies with the jurisdictional assessing officer. I'll give you an example. Many cases this is happening where you are making certain submissions under the faceless assessment scheme. The submission is accepted. They have said, yes, I have accepted all the submissions made by the assessee. No addition will be made on this point. But when the final order is passed, that addition is made. So nobody understands why this is happening. It is because 4 different additions shouldn't be made. But when the final order is being passed under the faceless scheme, addition is being made. So therefore, this is an error apparent on record. You can file the 154 with your jurisdictional assessing officer and he will rectify it, no problem. Next question. Whether any immunity is available against penalty under section 270A, or is it, sorry, one second, or is it mandatory if any addition is made? You have an immunity, sir. There is a section called 270AA. There is a section called 270AA where within 30 days of passing the order, and you will be able to pay the get an immunity from the penalty in that particular case if you pay the entire tax in the next 30 days. So, am I audible?
Yes.
Audible,
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some error came saying that I have disconnected. Yes. So that is the provision. So I hope that is clear, Vijay sir.
Yes, sir. You have said that immunity is available under 270AA.
Yes.
But I have also paid the tax amount now. I have it is a very minor addition, and I have accepted the addition for that. Still, whether there is any chance of making penalty over that?
Unfortunately, this 270A provision is like how in GST they are putting mandatory penalty.
Yes.
Earlier, the penalty provisions were discretionary to the assessing officer. So here, the discretionary power is not there. 270A, they straight away they are raising. So therefore, if you are not fighting on appeal, then since you have already paid the tax, as you said in this case, minor addition, just file the 270AA, file the 270AA relief, ask for the immunity. There is a particular form that you have to file. Once you file that form, file it and say that there is a delay, ask a condemnation of the delay, it will be approved for you, it will not be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question, friends? Salman sir. Hello. Hello. Salman sir used to ask.
வணக்கம், நல்லா இருக்கீங்களா?
நல்லா இருக்கேன் சார், நல்லா இருக்கேன். நீங்க கொஸ்டின் ரைஸ் பண்ணீங்களே, பண்ணவே இல்லையே, சொல்லுங்க.
இல்ல, அப்படிலாம் ஒண்ணும் இல்ல.
சொல்லுங்க.
Actually, இப்போ there was one notice with respect to assessment year 13-14. dated 31/3/2021.
Yes. Sir, cannot hear you. Suddenly your audio
No,
went off.
with respect to 13-14 assessment year,
Yes.
148 notice received from the respective assessing officer from Trichy,
Yes. So
dated
this
31/3/2021.
correct. So this is I had shared a screenshot also on my
Yeah.
screen where I
Yeah.
not only you, sir, many assessees have got. It is time barred. Please note.
Yes.
These assessments are time barred. The department, because the latest budget, they said up to 10 years you can reopen. They are thinking some people will miss that it is being reopened in the old scheme. Please note, none of these notices pertain to the new reopening scheme. If they are issuing under new reopening scheme, show cause notice before 148 will be given. The moment
you
you get a
explained.
148, that means it is coming in old scheme. Maximum 6 years from the end of the relevant assessment year. If you have got it 13-14, straight away reply to your physical jurisdiction, whoever has issued the notice. Please reply to them saying time barred, so that they cannot proceed with the assessment. Put it on record, sir.
And in our case, already we have not filed return also.
Yes, it is not required, sir. You can file a response, get a acknowledgement tapal or something, proof that you have given the response, so that
That's enough.
if they
Whether,
even if they pass
whether
an order,
already we have filed return or not, doesn't matter.
it should not matter because it is time barred. Actually, you need not even respond, but because in appeal they may ask for it, you please create a evidence that you have responded to them that it is time barred.
There is no extension of time for reopening in that case.
In those cases, it is not there, sir. 6 years from end of relevant assessment year, that has not changed.
Up to 31/3/2020, it is overlapped.
That is lapsed.
And faceless scrutiny will become tedious nowadays, I think.
So, this will also eventually go to faceless. All your reopening that you are getting, once the 142(1) is issued or 143(2) is issued, it will go to faceless.
You have to face it.
Less opportunities to fight it.
Hello. Any other question, friends? Or else we can conclude? Suri, sir. Hello.
No question, Sarana Sundar.
No, okay. Shall we conclude, sir?
You call Guhan.
Gugani is not in the line, sir.
Oh.
Okay, sir. Shall we conclude, sir?
Yeah, please.
Many thanks to Abhishek, sir.
Very fantastic program.
Actual program. First time I held. Thank you very much, sir. Govindarajan, sir.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you so much for this opportunity once again. I'm looking forward to visiting Kumbakonam physically, hopefully soon.
On this pandemic over, they will meet you, sir. Not only you, but your father also. We are waiting for news. Yeah, this year planned to meet him, but we could not able to handle.
Yes, sir.
We'll do it.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Please be safe, sir. All
Thanks a lot.
be safe, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.